Hey yo, what's up? It's your boy, the wizard, the one, the only, the smartest man alive, coming to you today with another video. And this video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. Normally I just do whatever the fuck I want, which is what I'm doing right here. But this is a very interesting concept, One Piece theory, One Piece in general video that I wanted to do. As you can tell from the title, I like the title because I already know what I'm gonna put on it, baby. I'm probably gonna put like something like do devil fruits have limits, or like something like whatever. You know what well, you already know what the title is gonna be. But my theory is, do One Piece devil fruits have limits? Are they infinite? Are they? In concept, do they have a limit, or are they limitless? Right? It's an anime. Anything can happen, right? We don't know. So I've done a little bit of research, and I'm gonna try to make this video short, just to get the concept out there, just to have y'all thinking, right? I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, and he actually made this make sense. So, why do I think devil fruits are probably infinite? Well, like I said in my other videos, I'm rewatching One Piece, and I think right now One Piece in the beginning is very interesting. You see a lot of things that actually kind of make sense, right? Like in the end. Like in the end of the story, everything from the beginning still makes sense. Like I understand everything that's going on. Nothing that I've watched so far is like inconsistent with what's happening in the future. Actually, you could say some things were planned in the past that are actually showing up in the future, and it's so interesting because I was like, wow, I can't believe this happened. But anyways, back to the actual main topic. Starting with any devil fruit, do we think these devil fruits have a limit? Yes, they do have limits. So to answer your question, are they infinite? Not really. No, not really. Not unless the author wants to give them this infinite power. But I'll tell you how they really are infinite in like in like in the long term they could be infinite, right? Starting with, what limits do they have? Their limits are based off of the person using them, like based on their creativity. That's their limit. They can only do what the creator thinks that they can do with that fruit. For an example, Alvida, right? Alvida has the smooth fruit, right? You can't hit Alvida. Essentially, her fruit makes her untouchable, because anything that hits her will just slide off, right? That's her entire fruit. So you could argue that Alvida's untouchable. But in that same scene, Smoker, Captain Smoker, grabs her, right? So would you argue that Smoker himself at the time has hockey? Maybe. Maybe. Or, I mean, Kobe has hockey when he was a captain, right? It's not a long stretch. You could probably argue that, right? Maybe, right? Or the smoke itself is tangible enough to actually not fall off of her smooth body, right? But she does have the limitation where she can be grabbed by Logia users, right? It seems like Paramecias probably wouldn't be able to grab her. Either that, or it's like, for an example, Trafalgar Law versus Buggy the Clown, right? Essentially, Buggy the Clown would be untouched by Law's shambles, but Buggy can always reassemble. So what would he have to do to really hurt Buggy? Well, he would have to maybe remove his personality, or remove maybe removing the personality might actually do something, but we don't know if Law can do this. You see, a lot of these things is like, We don't know if the character could do it. It would make sense because Law has switched personalities before, but we don't know if he could just take one person's personality and keep it trapped so the person has like no soul, right? Would really make the fruit broken, but we don't know if he can do that, right? It's just concept. And in reality, like, we don't know how far these concepts can go. So what am I most interested about? Luffy, right? So in an interesting SBS, Oda said, well, somebody asked Oda, how far can Luffy stretch? And before we go to this, I just wanted to show you this. This is going to be very important. What Luffy does here is extremely, extremely important. I want you to pay attention to what Luffy does very carefully. Listen carefully. Mind you, how far is he stretching right now? You could say this is ridiculously far, right? Current Luffy, when he does Jet Culverin, or when he does Black Mamba, or when he's in Snake Man or in Bounce Man, we don't really understand how far he's stretching. But we know he's stretching quite far. There must be a limit to this. And I'll explain to you why Luffy has a limit. So, continuing with the video, you're going to see why Luffy has a limit. If he didn't have a limit, he would just continue to stretch. Another thing that's very interesting is that Luffy, like a rubber band, he can stretch. But what's weird is that when he does stretch, he never loses mass. So, could you say that Luffy is retaining his mass? Or would you say that he's increasing his mass as he stretches? So, like I said, when you stretch a rubber band, what happens? The rubber band gets thinner and thinner, and in reality, its mass isn't decreasing in total, but the points in the rubber band are losing a specific amount of mass. If you cut the rubber band on like any end where you're stretching it specifically, this part will be very, very small compared to the base of the original form of the rubber band. What I'm trying to say is he is stretching to a point where it almost seems like a rubber band. Imagine if you stretched a rubber band and it never lost mass. That means you would have a mass, like you would have either like some sort of massless or like some sort of like reality warping rubber band, essentially, where it would just continuously increase. And if you tied it to one end and you just continue to stretch it, it would essentially never break. But what Luffy's doing here is kind of like the same thing, but he has a limit, and it's not decreasing. It's not decreasing his thinness. His arms stay the same length and everything. Now, you probably didn't notice it the first time, but I'll explain it to you the second time, what he actually ended up doing. So a fan asked Oda the same thing. He said, and I quote, how far can Luffy stretch in One Piece? He can stretch them really far. Right now, Luffy can stretch about 72 Gomu Gomus. But Luffy is now working hard, trying to achieve 100 Gomu Gomus record. Right? Sick. Right? So what the fuck does this mean, you may be asking, right? That makes no sense. If you paid close attention to what Luffy just did to Wapol, he said, Gomu Gomu no. And then he continued to say Gomu, 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 right? Like he was really trying to stretch it out, right? And we don't know how far he's stretching when he does this, but pay attention again. He says Gomu, Gomu no. Mind you, he already said Gomu Gomu there. Let's go back. Just so that you guys pay it. Right? Did it? He already did it twice. He already did it twice. Says it like 6 more times. That's 8 in total, right? Now, is what Oda is trying to imply here? Is he trying to imply that as long as he continues to say Gomu 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 Gomu, right? If he keeps saying that, does he just continue to stretch? Or how my friend told me, what if it's the amount of times he's saying Gomu? That's how far he can stretch. So assuming he's saying Gomu Gomu every second, this is like 72 seconds of stretching, and he's trying to... mind you, this was before the time skip, so maybe he can stretch even farther than this, right? So here's another SBS question that was asked by a fan. He's like, a little while later, someone asked how far Gomu Gomu was in liters, not meters. Liters, maybe he really liked Gomu Gomu Balloon. He also said he checked with the Ministry of Education and they couldn't give him an answer. So Oda says, "Oh, you again, Gaimon-san, son. And you looked at the Ministry, sick of education, again, leaders. Well, you can put it to those terms, you see, one Gomu Gomu is about 10 fairy tale Gomu Gomus. One fairy tale Gomu Gomu is about 10 funky Gomu Gomus. So Luffy's arm can stretch about 7,200 funky Gomu Gomus. Got it? So Luffy can, right? It does imply Luffy can increase his stretching length with training. If so, he can probably stretch a lot farther now, right? This is implying that, right? But Oda's also trolling when he gives this answer because he himself doesn't really know. And something that's interesting is that Luffy does show that he does have a limit of how far he can stretch. And I'm about to show it to you. Pay close attention to his arms. Now, arms, when you stretch them, if you were to stretch an arm like an actual human arm, they would, you know, rip off. But since he's made out of rubber, it's different. What happens when you start stretching a rubber band to its limit? It starts doing what's happening to Luffy's arm. But it's doing it in a way where it's not completely breaking. Now, mind you, Luffy does escape from this, but he does have a couple of tears in his arms. Mind you, Luffy in size has also gotten bigger. So has his mass decreased here? His arm size and length has not really decreased. Well, the length of the arm itself has decreased, but in mass, he looks like he's gone, if not bigger. Like I said, you can see a couple of, you know, tear marks here, tear mark here, tear mark here, tear mark here, tear mark here. In a way, you can say he's either ripping the skin off of his body to stretch more, but he is at a limit here, right? So are One Piece Devil Fruits infinite? No, but here's where awakening comes into play. Awakening in it of itself has no limit, as of what we've seen, unless it's the creator or the person using awakening's limit, right? So if this is the case, if what I'm saying is true, right, let's look at the instances of where awakening was used, right? Let's look at Dofi using awakening, or let's look at Katakuri using Awakening, right? Katakuri uses Awakening, right? Also, mind you, the admirals Aokiji and Akainu were also able to use Awakening as well. So in concept, they're able to, from what we understand, they're able to completely distort the areas around them to the point where there could be no limit, right? Like the weather on these islands haven't changed. Like they're continuously in the shape that they're in, right? Like there's an infinite storm of snow in Punk Hazard. And in fucking the other side, where Akainu was fighting, it's like an infinite amount of magma, an infinite amount of volcanoes just continuously spurting out, right? Mind you, this is a mirror dimension. This is not. He can affect anything with Awakening. He says flowing mochi, and then he affects the entire area around him, right? And it seems like there's no end to it, right? But there is an end. It ends when the creator or the person, the user itself, stops it, right? So are devil fruits in it of themselves infinite? They could be. They could be. In my own headcanon, I would say they could be, but we aren't going to see that limit anytime soon, right? Some devil fruits have like physical limitations. How Luffy can only stretch to a certain amount of Gomu Gomus, according to what the author said, or Luffy himself can maybe work on this and continue to stretch more, right? So there is no real limitation to how far he can stretch. To put into perspective, Luffy's the same guy who took a rubber fruit and turned it into an enhancement fruit, where now he's able to go into a gear second or Soru-like state where he can increase his speed and overall power to a higher extent, a much higher extent, 5 times in fact, a lot stronger than his base. And then gear fourth is also able to increase his power over a certain extent. Mind you, I wanted to explain this multiplier real quick because some people seem to not understand how to calculate how to do this, right? So in base, right? If Luffy in base, right, is faster than light, right? So since Bluno himself was able to match Luffy, if not was stronger than Luffy, Luffy had to go into gear second to then surpass Bluno, right? So Luffy in it of himself was able to then match Rob Lucci, right? You could say it was even, right? So in order for this to happen, the multiplier would actually be 5 times, right? So Luffy 5 times his base would be like a 10, right? So now Luffy's a 10 in gear second, right? So if Doflamingo says he's 3 times stronger, right? You wouldn't say he's 3 times stronger than his base because Luffy was using gear second most of the fight and he was using a little bit of gear third, but he was using mostly gear second to fight Dofi, right? So you wouldn't say Luffy, he did a Red Hawk, which is a gear second attack mixed in with Haki, and it has flames on it, right? So when Dofi says Luffy got 3 times stronger, it's implying that from his gear second, he's much stronger than what he was, right? But you could probably say it's much higher than this because it was to the point where Dofi was completely overwhelmed. So that's how I got that multiplier where, yeah, you could say it's 3 times, and you could just multiply 10 times 3 and just say it's 30, right? But you can lowball it even more and say it's like times 15, right? You can super lowball it, but it really depends. Like, I could just say a 10 times multiplier, I could say a 25 times multiplier, 5 times multiplier. Doesn't matter. The whole point is that it's multiplying over his base mode. His base mode is literally times 2 or like times 10. It could be whatever base multiplier you want to give him already, right? If his base is already at a certain level, you just multiply times 5 with gear second, or times 6 if you want to highball gear second multiplier, right? But if you want to take, in my opinion, the correct multiplier would be like 5, just say 5 and just say fuck it. And then after that, multiply times 3, whatever you get, right? When you're multiplying multiple numbers, do you add them? Because I see some people are like adding multipliers, but that's irrelevant, right? The only reason why I brought that up is because seems like some people didn't understand what I was trying to say when it came to the multipliers themselves. You're multiplying the numbers over and over again until you get the max number. That's how I do it. I see some people are adding multipliers, which makes no sense to me. How are you going to add a multiplier? Right? Another thing is like, Dofi is saying he got 3 times stronger, but at the same time, Dofi's also getting blitzed. Like, he can't even comprehend him. So I understand where some people are even they're highballing gear 4th and saying it could be stronger than this too. Since gear 5 or gear 2nd is a 5 times multiplier, some people highball it even more and say it's like times 5. Because there'd be no way for Dofi to really know. But, you know, he's saying that based off of what he thinks, right? So if we just take it off of what he thinks, you could say it's like, in total, the multiplier would be like times 15 his base, essentially. You multiply the first multiplier, or you would multiply his gear 2nd, right? His gear 2nd base. But continuing on to what I said. Devil fruits. In conclusion, are they limitless? Yes and no. Are they infinite? Yes and no. Does awakening make them infinite? Kind of, yes. Not really sure, though. Right? And have we seen limits? Yes. Can these limits be increased? Yes. So do they have limits? No, but yes. Right? So it's like the whole point is that I believe Luffy has another power that we still have not seen current Luffy do. We have not seen him continue to say Gomu 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 Gomu. So if stretching more increases mass, so my friend said Luffy could probably create an infinite mass punch. So for those of you who don't know what an infinite mass punch is, an infinite mass punch is a punch that the Flash from DC can do. That essentially is as fast as the speed of light that can essentially destroy the world. Right? So, would this make Luffy planetary? Yes, it would actually. If he can continuously stretch his arm and have a mass increasing punch, he could essentially outmass the planet itself to the point where he could just one-shot the planet. So essentially, the theory would be, can Luffy one-shot the planet? He could. He could. He actually could. I think that's going to be the name of the title of this video. Can Luffy one-punch the planet? That's going to be the title. 100%. But anyways, I'm going to go. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this video wasn't too long. Don't know how long it was, but you already know what it be. I was going to show you this, right? But this just explains this video essentially, right? I appreciate any of the support I get in this video. If you like, you already know what to do. Like the video, subscribe, turn on that bell so you can get those notifications. I don't really know when I'm gonna be uploading videos. Kind of just when I have an idea or when I have like some energy, I'll probably upload a video. I'm gonna try to upload as much as possible, but like I said, it just comes down to how many ideas I'm coming with. I think this is an original idea so far. I don't think anybody on YouTube has this idea or has made a video on this, but essentially, um, do you think Luffy can create an infinite mass punch? Do you think he can one-shot the planet with a punch? I mean, other series can do it. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. And if you like the video, like I said, you already know what to do. Peace! And have a good goddamn day.